Donald Trump has won the US presidential election. A convicted felon who's also facing further multiple criminal charges, including those related to the January 6th attack on Capitol Hill. It sounds insane, almost unbelievable, but it's a reality of the American political system. And when I woke up to find out that Trump had won, I have to say I had mixed feelings about that. Obviously, we're all happy about Democrats losing. Their absolute support for the Zionist entity's genocide in Gaza is, well, disgusting.
Israel has a right to defend itself, without any question.
The president and I take very seriously our commitment to Israel and to the people of Israel.
Kamala Harris was unwilling to apologize for it, unwilling to put an arms embargo, and in fact increase the amount of military aid when she was in government, when she was vice president, given to Israel. All the while we saw war crimes after war crimes on our social media feeds. But let's be clear, celebrating the Democrats' loss doesn't mean celebrating Trump and his victory. I can't stand Trump and what he stands for, and particularly those anti-Muslim, racist, pro-Zionist idiot supporters he has.
I think Islam hates us. There's something there that there's a tremendous hatred there. There's a tremendous hatred. We have to get to the bottom of it. There is an unbelievable hatred of us,
who are now celebrating that their man got in. But it got me thinking, what was the key reason why not only did Trump win the presidency, but he also won the popular vote too? And it wasn't just his base of white, anti-immigrant, racist voters, anti-Muslim voters that came out. Trump actually gained support among Hispanics, African-American voters, and even the so-called gender divide didn't turn out as many expected. Women didn't flock to Kamala Harris. Across the board, Trump outperformed his 2020 numbers. So what's driving this? There are many factors, and I'm not here to do a full post-mortem analysis here, but Trump has mastered positioning himself as a political outsider, an anti-establishment crusader fighting the deep state. That image resonates with many Americans who feel the establishment has failed them. Think about it. The past few years brought inflation, government restrictions during COVID, and a rise of rhetoric about the great replacement theories and woke culture. People are frustrated. To them, Trump stands up against the elites, the same elites they blame for the breakdown of traditional values, rising crime, and economic instability. Yes, I'm not ignoring the effect that Gaza had on the Democrats losing, and certainly it can be seen as a factor, a significant factor in the Michigan state, which was a swing state where Trump only won by 80,000 votes, while the Muslim population is over 200,000.
We just could not get behind Kamala Harris, given that her administration, the administration that she's a part of, or that she was a part of now, was directly contributing to the genocide of our people overseas and the decimation of our home country.
But that in and of itself doesn't explain how Trump increased his votes across all demographics. High inflation, fears of crime, attacks on family values, and the belief that the root cause of all of this is the political establishment. This is what drove large numbers to vote for Trump across America. And distrust in the federal government has only increased over the years, as you can see in this graph. But is Trump really anti-establishment, a political outsider railing against the deep state? Firstly, American political system is less a democracy and more an oligarchy. It's the rule of the rich, the super rich, over society. And then they place a fig leaf of the elections, giving the impression that you, the people, are in power. A 2014 study by Professors Martin Gilens and Benjamin Page concluded that a multivariate analysis indicates that economic elites and organized groups representing business interests have substantial independent impacts on US government policy, while average citizens and mass-based interest groups have little or no independent influence. In simple terms, they're saying that economic elites and corporate groups have significant influence over policy, while you, the average citizen, have little to none. Look at campaign contributions. This exemplifies this point. Just this election cycle, $15.9 billion was spent. Insane, right? The biggest donor was Timothy Mellon from a multi-billion-dollar banking family. He gave nearly $200 million to the Trump campaign. $200 million. Others like Linda McMahon and Miriam Edelson have also contributed millions, and there's actually a whole list of people and corporations that have done so. Even Elon Musk famously reportedly poured over $108 million into Trump's victory. So why do these billionaires and corporations invest so heavily in politics? Because it pays off. Take the GEO Group, a private prison corporation. They donated big money to Trump, and after his election victory, their stock soared. Why? Because it's assumed that Trump's tough stance on illegal migrants will help fill private prisons, thereby increasing their profits. So GEO supported Trump's presidency and tougher policies against illegal migrations because they know they'll receive more money for imprisoning these illegal migrants, thus resulting in their stock prices increasing. Absolutely crazy, right? It's all a game. Rich donors get policies that benefit them in return for their contributions. Another prominent donor, Kelsey Warren, who's donated millions to the recent election campaign. Well, after donating to Trump's 2016 campaign, he saw his energy company benefit when Trump expedited a controversial pipeline project, helping their company. Meanwhile, the GEO Group faced the potential closure of private prisons under new legislation in 2016. So they donated another $100,000 to the Republicans, and when Trump won the 2016 election campaign, the policy was reversed. These aren't conspiracy theories. These are documented influence. Plain and simple, it's documented. I could give you hundreds of examples of rich billionaires and corporations benefiting from campaign contributions or spending millions of dollars in order to get access and influence over politicians. Trump's policies, from tax cuts to deregulations, they favor the rich. In fact, the latest victory of Trump has already boosted the net worth of the top 10 wealthiest Americans by $64 billion. Elon Musk donating over $100 million to Trump's campaign has now seen his wealth, his personal wealth, increase by over $20 billion. $20 billion. What a brilliant investment that was. And let's not pretend that the Democrats are any different. Billionaires and corporations hedged their bets, funding in fact both sides, both parties, to see which one would win. As BlackRock CEO Larry Fink put it, we work with both administrations. BlackRock is a $1 trillion asset management firm, and they're not worried about who wins. Why? Because they control enough to work with anyone that comes into power. So when we talk about Trump as an anti-establishment outsider, we need to see the full picture. Yes, he speaks to the frustrations of the average American, but he's deeply embedded in the oligarchic system and structure that exists in America. His allies also include think tanks like American First Policy Institute, headed by none other than Linda McMahon. Yes, that Linda McMahon, Vince's wife, who donated over $60 million to Trump's campaign cause. She's the one that chairs this policy institute that has close ties with Donald Trump. So not only is she supplying campaign contributions to Donald Trump, but also the policies she's proposing for Donald Trump to enact when he gets into power. And look at the people at this policy institute. People like Chad Wolf, a former lobbyist. His job was to lobby politicians on behalf of corporations and companies in order to secure contracts. He was also the former acting head of Homeland Security under Donald Trump. And Larry Kudlow, who started his career at New York Federal Reserve and later was the host of Fox Business, a conservative media outlet owned by who? Rupert Murdoch. They aren't outsiders. They are part of the establishment machine. And many at American First have deep ties with conservative establishments like the Heritage Foundation. And speaking of the Heritage Foundation, this right-wing policy think tank had a major influence on conservative movements dating back to the Reagan era. It pulls in over $100 million in revenue and boasted that 2/3 of its policy recommendations were adopted by Trump in his first term back in 2016. Now they're back with a comprehensive plan called Project 2025, laying out a detailed agenda for Trump's first 180 days in office. But don't be mistaken, Heritage Foundation is not an anti-establishment group. It's a well-funded, powerful institution tied to establishment conservatives. They claim to represent a broad coalition of conservative figures, which are in essence establishment insiders shaping Trump's policies. You can even check their website and see for yourself. And by the way, that's exactly what I did. I read through both American First Policy Institute's and Heritage Foundation's 180-day plan, focusing specifically on Gaza, Middle East, and Iran. America First Policy Institute argues that Biden and Harris have actually been too soft, insisting that the US should expand conflicts rather than contain them. This is what they said. The public priority of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris throughout has been to contain the conflict, as if compromise was possible when the explicit agenda of the aggressor party is plain extermination. That's why they have pulled their US military punches versus the Houthis, which have resulted in the first US naval operational defeat since the Second World War in the loss of the Red Sea shipping lanes. That's why they have squandered American prestige by negotiating with Hamas, and that's why even now they are lobbying the Israelis to be gentle with the Iranians. They claim that Biden's approach has hurt American prestige and call for more aggressive stance. Meanwhile, the Heritage Foundation asserts ensuring Israel has both the military means and the political support and flexibility to take what it deems to be appropriate measures to defend itself. In other words, they support Israel's right to determine its own military response. As we can see what they're doing in Gaza, they're saying that Israel should be allowed to determine how they should respond, when they should respond, if they want to commit a genocide, if they want to commit war crimes, and essentially America should continue to back it. They're just echoing democratic policies. Furthermore, Heritage Foundation calls for America to pressure Arab states to increase their ties with Israel. They want to increase pressure on Saudi to recognize Israel. They want to curtail both Russia and China, and they see China as a global threat to their hegemony. The point is, the think tanks Trump relies on are pushing the very same aggressive foreign policies as pretty much what we have seen with Democrats. In fact, perhaps they want to take it even further, especially over the support for Israel. Whether it's campaign contributions, policy think tanks, or the so-called experts advising him, none of this paints Trump as an anti-establishment figure. For Muslims or anyone hoping that Trump will change course on Palestine or stand against the ongoing genocide there, just look at the proposed policies and the people he's aligned with. So apart from the domestic policy differences over maybe gender issues and some economic policies, Trump doesn't represent a real break from the establishment, just gravitating to a different part of the establishment, a certain strand of thinking that some establishment figures and organizations have. At the end of the day, Trump may not fit the mold of a traditional politician, but he's certainly a product of the Americanism and the oligarchic system that exists within America.